Hello everyone, hope you're all safe and well. Welcome to this program, Read Your Bible Through in a Year, and we are on day 30. And today we will be reading chapters 23 and 24 from the book of Exodus, and in the New Testament, Gospel according to Matthew, chapters 20 verses 1 through to 16. Now, before we start today's reading, just to remind you, if you have not subscribed for this channel, please do subscribe, and don't forget to share this link with your friends and family so that they will be blessed as well. And don't forget to click on the bell icon so you will get your reminders and notifications. Now, in the 23 and 24 chapters, we are still continuing to read the law which God gave the Israel. Yesterday we heard me saying that these law are the ones which the people will face when they reach the promised land. These are the things the promised land, the people in the promised land were doing, and God didn't wanted them to do this. They didn't wanted the Israelite to go and follow those laws. So he wanted to make his own law and follow the law of the Lord. So that is why he was giving them these laws. In chapter 23, we read about the law of justice and mercy, and also about the Sabbath law, how the Sabbath law will have to be followed. Now, these laws are, we read these laws in detail in the book of Deuteronomy and in the book of Leviticus. So this is just a gist of that. And also in chapter 23, God asks them to celebrate 3 important festivals in a year. So that would mean that he wanted the people of Israel to appear before him 3 times a year during these 3 festivals. And the 3 festivals are the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Feast of Harvest, and the Feast of Ingathering. So these 3 festivals were later given different names. So, for example, the first Feast of Unleavened Bread was called as the Passover, which we read about which we read about in Exodus chapter 12. We will be reading about this in Leviticus chapter 23 and also in Deuteronomy chapter 16. The Feast of Harvest was later called as the Feast of the Week, and in the New Testament it was called as the Pentecost. We will be reading about this again in Leviticus chapter 23 and Deuteronomy chapter 16, also in the Acts of the Apostles chapter 2 verses 1. Then the third festival, the Feast of Ingathering, was later called as the Feast of Tabernacle. Again, about this feast we will be reading in much detail about in Leviticus chapter 23 verses 33 to 43, and also Deuteronomy chapter 16 we will be reading about this festival. So God wanted the people of Israel to come before him 3 times a year. And also in chapter 23 we read God promising an angel that will prepare their way. Throughout their way he will be protecting them all the way against their enemies. And also in chapter 24 God renews the covenant and asks Moses to get up early in the morning, and he erects stone 12 pillars representing 12 tribes of Israel, and he makes sacrifice there. And also God asks him, when Moses went up the mountain, the clouds covered it and the glory of the Lord settles on the mountain. Then Moses gives responsibility to Joshua and goes up into the clouds to the mountain, where the next 40 days and 40 nights he's going to spend there. So this is a very crucial period for the people of Israel again, because it is here God gives them the law, gives them advises Moses or instructs Moses about the tabernacle, etc. So that is the reading for today. And coming to the New Testament, we are reading chapter 20 verses 1 through to 19. Again, we are continuing to read about Jesus' teachings about the kingdom of heaven. So how all the time he's talking about the kingdom of heaven. There's a necessity, as I told you, the Gospel of Matthew is designated to the Jews. So here Jesus is trying to explain to the people, explain to his audience what the kingdom of heaven is. He's trying to explain to them through various parables and etc. In chapter 20 verses 1 through to 19, he talks about the parable of workers in the vineyard, how the employer, when it goes to the first watch, second watch, third watch, and he finds the people, and when it came to pay, all of them received equal amount of wages. So that's what we read about in the New Testament, chapter 20 verses 1 through to 19. So it's fairly easy, but the coming days in the book of Exodus, you will be reading a lot of things about the tabernacle, how the lampstand has to be, how the tabernacle has to be, how the table has to be. God gives specific instructions to Moses as to how to construct the tabernacle. But all these things we will be again reading through in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. But this is the entirety, the 40 days and 40 nights when Moses is with the Lord in the clouds on the Mount Sinai is a very, very important period in the life of Israel, especially the journey to the promised land. So thanks for listening and thanks for watching my YouTube channel. And if you have missed out yesterday's teachings and explanation, you can always click on the button on the right hand top corner so you can go back and listen to all my teachings. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay blessed, and until I see you tomorrow, goodbye.